Alright everyone, you should be able to hear me now. Let's see, we've got 12 viewers on. So great to see everyone here if you're watching this later. Good to have you. And this is going to have really good information on what's going to be happening with this big storm. All types of impacts likely for pretty much the entire eastern, especially eastern third of the country. So let's go ahead and get on in to the details here in just a second. If I can get a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me now, I would love to have that there just for some confirmation. But again, if you're watching this later, don't leave. This is going to have some great information on the forecast for us here. But if you can go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the chat at this point, and let me know that you can hear me right now, that would really help me with this stream. And just making sure that you can hear me. All right, I've got a thumbs up in the chat. Thank you so much for the comments, everyone. Yeah, 1,070 subscribers. Yeah, I can't believe it. All right, we've got thumbs up in the chat. Thank you to everyone for being on here. Let's go ahead and head on over. I want to show you this right here, and this is a temperature anomaly map. We're just going to start with this just real quick to kind of show you what's going to help with this storm system, because I haven't really talked about this in the videos just because it doesn't really apply as much here. But this is the temperature anomaly and how far above average temperatures are going to be here. And look at this. You can see this stripe of temperatures, and you can really see how this storm is going to be, moving into it here. Temperatures 10-20 degrees above normal are going to be heading into the eastern half of the country here overall with this system. And you can see we've at least got some marginally cooler than average air pushing out of parts of the Four Corners region especially, and into parts of the plains at this point. So yeah, we've got thumbs up in the chat. All right, thank you to everyone. And now let's go ahead and head on over to the European model. This is the latest run of the European model. Now, in the last few videos, I can tell you what's changed from what I've talked about in my first two videos about this storm, because I detailed it on Monday. I detailed it yesterday. Now it's Wednesday. We need to break down exactly what's expected to happen. So let's go ahead and head on over now to the full screen sharing here and just show you the temperature anomalies that I was just talking about. And you can see they're going to make their way, again, pretty much exiting parts of the central United States, heading eastward here, and making their way on over towards the east coast. Notice how that warmer than average air heads in that direction pretty quickly here. And you can see, again, marginally cooler than average air pushing on it from the western coast. So that's really what we're going to see in that regard. But now let's head on over. I just realized a second ago that you couldn't actually see what I was talking about on my screen. Now you can. And now let's head on over to the European model, and let me tell you exactly what's changed from when we were looking at this yesterday, okay? Here's what's changed. Yesterday, the European model, we saw a little bit of a change from what we saw with this originally, and the European model sort of had the low developing kind of here, taking a little while, but pretty much, really going through bombogenesis, which is just a really rapid drop in pressure, or at least, some sort of, marginal bombogenesis here as it makes its way on off towards the northeast, bringing the worst impacts here, especially in wind and rain, to the eastern half of the country after bringing a quick severe weather setup on Saturday. That severe weather setup still looks to be in place for our Saturday, okay, so that isn't gone. But what is, a little bit weaker with this storm, this is what we're looking at now as of your Wednesday afternoon. Look at how this low is still 1,000 millibars. That's, a weaker low pressure system than the 990, the 980 that we had seen in previous runs. Now, this is kind of what we're leveling out and seeing here, and this is more comparable with the GFS model. And what that tells me at this point is that with these models really starting to come a little bit more into agreement, that's telling me that we're beginning to get at least a little bit of a hold on what to expect with this system. So let's walk this through day by day here, and I don't want to forget anybody in the Rockies or the northern tier. This is going to start out looking pretty weak. We've got some low pressure here, most snowfall with this, and some of it could be heavy, will be in the northwestern side of this in southern Canada. No impacts to the U.S. really from that snow, except in far northern Montana, as well as far northern North Dakota. We'll also have some snowfall sinking southward here over parts of the Rocky Mountains, exiting Idaho, making its way on down into parts, of Utah, as well as into parts of Colorado. So we'll have to see exactly how much snow we get into some of those regions, but it looks like it'll be a pretty decent and quick shot of some of that snowfall through some of those areas. Then from there, we're going to begin to see this system progress eastward pretty quickly at that. And by the time we make our way into our early Saturday morning, we've got a little bit of that light snowfall over the north central quarter of the United States. Then we've got new low pressure developing here over the Midwest. That low pressure system has a front that's attached like this. When you have a front attached like that, your severe weather zone is always going to be, right in here along that southern end. And what we've got going on here, you can notice as that continues making its way on off towards the north and east. This is piece of energy number one. With the, what we've seen this week with the low pressure system, with the storm here, it's number one's kind of going to head on off towards the northeast like this. The second one that could actually undergo that rapid strengthening would form right around here now and make its way on up into parts of the Great Lakes or the eastern Great Lakes there around Lake Ontario, especially. So that would be what we'd be seeing there. But anyway, here we go into the afternoon, and this is what I want to show you. This is Saturday afternoon around 4, 5, 6 o'clock Central Time. Notice this little area of storms. Nothing here connected to that original low pressure system now over parts of the Great Lakes. Nothing here in the Great Lakes, but what we are seeing is this convection down here over the Arklatex on up into parts of Memphis, Tennessee, southwestern Kentucky, parts of southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, all these areas lighting up with activity. We could be seeing some scattered severe weather just overall embedded in this region. Now, Friday, we've got that brief marginal severe weather risk here over parts of eastern Oklahoma into parts of Missouri and Arkansas. Could we see a brief spin-up tornado in this? Yes. Overall, the risk on the lower side as I see it with that right now. What we have seen from yesterday to today with our day 4 particular outlook here. Yesterday, it looked just about like this. Now we're seeing it a little bit further north. They've added areas into parts of far northeastern Arkansas as well as western Tennessee get in on that mix. And to me, that's telling me that this is going to be a little bit more of a broad threat. So what looked like a higher end threat down here is a little bit more broadened out, but it impacts more people with the threat. And I think in the end, our slight risk might end up looking somewhat like this. And of course, we'll see that slight risk come out by midnight tonight. If you're watching this, December 7th or after, you're already knowing exactly what that slight risk looks like if you've seen the Storm Prediction Center's latest outlook. But anyway, back on over to the models here, and we're going to continue to play this out beyond that point. You can see that line begins to head on off through to the east. This is around, say, 10, 11 o'clock Saturday evening in Central Time, say around maybe midnight here, and we're seeing this begin to push on off towards the east, again connected to this older low pressure system that's kind of merged with what's moving through southern Canada. Again, this is not really enough to make it to the east coast on its own. It needs some sort of new low pressure to develop, and yes, it does look like we will have that happen. You can see how we get that push, a warm front right here, cold front right here, low pressure right here. So into our early Sunday morning, we could very well be seeing the chance for at least a few, scattered severe storms, some tornadoes here over parts of southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, southwestern Georgia, the panhandle of Florida as well. Maybe some isolated severe storms over here over the Ohio Valley, but overall the threat looks lower in this case with the Euro model scenario. Eventually that low pressure moves, northeastward enough and begins, strengthening a little bit. And what that could at least do is bring a marginal severe risk here along this line for especially damaging winds over parts of, Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, into the Panhandle of Florida, into our Sunday middle of the afternoon. So again, severe weather threat marginal here on Friday. Probably a slight, maybe an embedded enhanced risk in this region on Saturday. Saturday night, we could see some areas along the Gulf Coast get impacted, and then marginally some severe weather here in the east is what I'm looking at as of now for those impacts here over parts of the southeastern United States. Let's look at the chat. Nothing too crazy going on right here. It looks like it might be running a little slow. Everybody let me know in the chat. Just give me a quick thumbs up and let me know that everything's flowing smoothly for you right now. If it's not running as smoothly as you would like, if I can just get a thumbs up that you can understand everything I'm saying and kind of follow along right now. I just want to make sure that's going okay for everyone watching. Thank you so much, 26 people on here. That's amazing. If I can just get a thumbs up letting me know that you can see what I'm talking about here and kind of follow along. That really helps me out. So So again, but while I wait on that, let's go ahead and continue to play this out. As the system moves eastward, we really see the low pressure area begin to really tighten on up. We see a potential, say, 9. Yeah, I got another thumbs up. Okay, thank you. That lets me know that you can hear what's going on. You can see snowfall maybe wrapping around on the back end of this. Originally, the low pressure was expected to track, whoop, just like that. And low pressure was expected to be making its way over parts of the midwestern United States, bringing an intense snow band around like that. That could have even originated in northern Arkansas. No, 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 that's not happening anymore. Models have changed on that. And, this is why, again, I was telling you in those first couple videos, this is preliminary. And now we're beginning to see this look with both the GFS and the Euro. We could see that area of snow, and I think that's more likely to play out. We could see a little bit of a lake-enhanced snow as well get in on that, especially if this low is a little bit further north. That push from the northwest could help to bring really heavy snow into parts of PA and New York. Nonetheless, this line of rain and storms could be bringing some severe weather pretty much right off the the mid-Atlantic coastline there, and then off Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, some of these zones. Those areas could be seeing some really strong winds by this point. We'll detail all those in just a minute. But if we can get that line that looks this intense, because this is what we were originally seeing, since it takes the low longer to bomb out, we really see that the worst storm line with damaging winds along it offshore. If that lower to strengthen right here, we could see that originate in parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, the Mid-Atlantic. So this is why it's important to stay tuned on the track of this low. Nonetheless, snow could wrap back around, maybe as far south as Philadelphia, PA, parts of New York City as well. So we'll have to see if that plays out just like that with the European model. But the GFS is actually, the Euro has been shifting towards what the GFS has been showing, so I think it's worth giving the GFS a look and seeing what the GFS has been talking about. I know I normally lean on the Euro more than the GFS. Nonetheless, look at this. Maybe some brief snow with that original system moving northeast over parts of western Wisconsin. Eastern Wisconsin pretty much staying showery, not much going on there. And again, you can see this shower coverage beginning to develop. GFS runs a little bit faster than the Euro with it, but it has slowed down to agree with the Euro a little bit more. Again, one thing to note, you can notice how this storm cluster is a little bit more extended out. With the Euro, you would look at a little bit more of a tornado potential down here over the south central. With this, the GFS, it is a weather model. And yeah, Chesham Academy, yeah, you could see some decent snow in Wisconsin if that low, it's the weather model, by the way. It just basically predicts what is going on. So there's many different computer models that run. Chesham Academy has it right. Global Forecast Model System. But anyway, the low pressure system could bring some snowfall back into Wisconsin. But again, we're not really seeing that with the Euro. We'll see if that happens. But what I do see with the GFS, maybe some popcorny storms that could be a little bit more severe further north, as far north as Indiana, Ohio. Some of those zones, I would certainly watch out for maybe some brief severe weather. In this scenario, so a little bit further north with that. But again, this is kind of why the Storm Prediction Center extended it a little bit further northeast into parts of Tennessee, because with the GFS being more accurate on the system and kind of being a little bit more tame this time around, unlike what it normally does. That's why it's a little bit, more honest to stick with the GFS for now at this point, even though the Euro is normally more trustworthy. Again, you see, this is what the GFS has been showing all along, a system really beginning to just moderately strengthen here towards the end of its cycle. And you can see how that brings and drapes thunderstorms over the southeastern United States. We continue to track the low pressure system on off towards the north and east. And again, look at how it gets itself together just fast enough. We could see a line of some stronger storms move through the mid-Atlantic and northeast, with a little bit of snow wrap around here on the back end. Notice how, again, you don't see as heavy of snow as you see with the Euro, but still some snowfall moving back around in parts of New York and PA with this system. So again, pretty much summarizing the information we have so far, we're looking at a potential for maybe some brief snowfall in this region here. Not much expected. The best chance now for some decent accumulation of snowfall would be at the back end of the system in the area I just circled. For severe weather, marginally severe here on Friday and into Friday night. Potentially some severe weather here, but looking more and more likely for at least a broader severe threat to develop over this region. Could severe weather stretch this far north? Maybe. I'll show you the dew points here in just a second. Severe weather looks to at least marginally continue kind of along a trek like this otherwise, though. So let's go ahead and take a look at that dew point here with the GFS model. And you can see playing this on out for you. Here we go. It's just loading on that for me. Here we go, playing the sun out. Again, you notice the best dew points and the best moisture for thunderstorms will be available down here. The best wind energy for thunderstorms is actually going to be available up here. But the problem is, again, for severe weather to happen, you have to have a bunch of ingredients in place. And this isn't really a bad thing to have ingredients, not in place with each other, of course, especially if you don't want towns damaged from damaging weather. Notice, though, we have enough in the way of 50 to 60 degree dew points up here over parts of the Ohio Valley, over parts of the plains, or over parts of the Tennessee Valley. Just watch out for maybe some isolated severe weather sneak that far north, and stay tuned for my video updates as we get closer. I'm sure I'll probably try to do another live stream as we get closer as well. The best energy for these storms is going to be concentrated towards the Gulf Coast. That's where we always have enough moisture and instability. But again, notice how we get at least that brief push of moisture on up towards parts of Long Island, New York, on up towards Cape Cod, some of these zones. Just monitor this for severe weather to make it that far north. But overall, the best chance for severe weather is going to be in here, after a marginal risk here, and potentially a marginal risk continuing over this region into our Sunday. So another thing we need to talk about is the wind gust potential, and we're going to start with the GFS on this, but also show you the Euro. In terms of the winds, they're looking quite strong with this system, and that's been one thing that's been, on the higher end of things. And by the way, prepare any questions you have for towards the end of the stream in case you have any. I'd love to hear any questions you have. As the system moves east, we could see some brief gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour in the Great Lakes into our late Saturday. We could see some, 30, 40 mile an hour winds start to develop in gust fashion here over the southeast into our Saturday night and into our Sunday. That really progresses though Sunday into parts of the rest of the southeast. Remember, if you're the Euro, you have these gusts just a little bit further back at this point and a little bit stronger, since the Euro trends a little bit slower and stronger with the storm system. Although it, again, has been going towards the weaker GFS model recently. 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts stretching on up the east coast by our Sunday afternoon. But look at how those winds pick up right here around Long Island, New York, all the way on up through Maine. This is where the GFS shows 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. You know what really is on the high end, though? Is the wind gusts with the European model showing some hurricane force gusts possible in that zone I just circled. Yeah, dreaming of a white Christmas. Hey, I live in the southeast, and I'm always hoping for some snowfall around Christmas time. Pretty far-fetched it can be at times, though. But anyway, we see that head on off towards the east eventually. But with the, if I were to do the same thing and play the slider out with the European model, let's go ahead and do that here. If I were to play the same slider out with the European model of wind gusts, what you're going to notice... Ooh, this is the 18Z run. Oh, yeah, that's just out. What you're going to notice here... Yeah, severe strength gusts in Lake Michigan. Yeah, potentially there. I wouldn't be shocked. Again, notice this is what we would watch. Those severe strength gusts that could happen on Lake Michigan would happen with that initial low pressure system that doesn't do much but pushes up here and brings at least the chance for the severe weather in this region, which is, of course, the highest severe chance we really see with this event. But behind this, some gusty northwest flow brings in that cooler air across the plains. And we continue to see those wind gusts, those move out quickly. Then the new storm system itself actually originates. Again, maybe some 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts along the east. But this area of yellow right off the coast is what really needs to be focused on. Look at how that heads northeastward. And look at what this does. Thank you for the congratulations on 1.7 or 1.07. Look at the 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. Pretty much widespread right along that coastline there. That's what you're seeing in some of those deeper yellow colors. In fact, this deserves zooming in on the northeastern region and what could happen there. Okay, let's do that and head on into that region. Look at some of these gusts here. Okay, in those deeper maroons, that's where you're talking 70, or deeper yellow colors. That's where to tan colors. That's where you're talking 75 mile per hour gusts. That's a 75 right there along Cape Cod. Hey, Mr. Storm, thanks for tuning in. We've got 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts right here. This entire area lighting up with at least 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts. I want to keep you keep you in the know. I'll be keeping you up to date with videos. But also just keep in mind here, wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour with heavy rain going on at the same time, that can cause extensive issues on its own, because we're not talking about a thunderstorm bringing 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts. We're talking about hours of this, or hours of 50, 60 mile per hour gusts in this zone potentially, especially with that Euro setup. This is why it's dangerous, because of those hurricane force winds possible. Yeah, can I go back 1 hour? Yeah, look, this is Monday morning here over parts of the Northeast. Some of these gusts, again, along Long Island, we could see some 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts there on Long Island. I know that's where you report from, Mr. Storm. Thanks for being in the comments, and your reporting is awesome. Just wanted to shout you out on that. But we get 50 mile per hour wind gusts to move like this, that along the coastline. We could watch that area very closely for that kind of activity. So again, the worst wind gusts look to push in early Monday morning here with the Euro setup over parts of Long Island. If I were to do this same thing with the GFS, because I do want to talk about the winds with the GFS, especially since we've got, whoa, almost 40 people on here. Wow. Let's do that, and then we'll just kind of recap everything I've talked about and answer some questions. Let's do that same thing with the GFS here, and look at what's happening with those wind gusts. Not quite as bad, but still. You see some of these 50, these 60 mile an hour gusts here. The minimum from a global forecast model that is a popular forecast model is 55 miles per hour for parts of Long Island for the max gusts right now. So if I'm on Long Island, if I'm in Cape Cod, if I'm in the Northeast, in this region I'm about to circle right here, I'm preparing for the potential of at least 50 mile per hour gusts, some occasional maybe 60 to 70, maybe to hurricane force, especially coming off of the water. By the way, hit that like button for me if you haven't already. Helps push this out to even more people. So we need to watch that wind potential quite closely. And then a couple more other things I want to touch on real quick before we just, overview and then wrap up here. I want to look at the total, precipitation, just rainfall here potential with this system. Notice here I'm adjusting the slider. Look at the rainfall potential we could get. Let's see where you can see the legend down there. Again, now some of this will be falling as snow up here, but just pretend everything's rain. Everything here in this region, in some of these purple or shades, that's where you're talking at least an inch of rain. So pretty much from parts of the Arklatex region, heading eastward through the southeast, coming off the Gulf Coast, heading on up into the Mid-Atlantic, into the northeast, you're looking at heavy rainfall, moving up the coastline like so. Some totals could, exceed 2 to 4 inches here. I would expect 3 to 4 to maybe 5 inches to be the max here into parts of the Western Carolinas, parts of Virginia, heading on up into Pennsylvania as well as New Jersey. So we'll monitor that closely here, and that's pretty much that with the rain. But with our snowfall, this is what's possible if you go with the Euro. The GFS is a little bit weaker on the snowfall side of things. Okay. And here we go with that snow. Look at how we get that stripe right there of wraparound snowfall at the end. This area right here that I just circled, that's where you could see a foot of snowfall if this plays out. Non-lake effect, real snow. And, some of those grays go all the way to the New Jersey shore. Could we see snow in New York City at the back end of the system if the Euro plays out like this? Yes. By the way, big snow here back on over into the Rockies as well. And this system just a really dynamic one that exits there and brings a lot of energy into this part of the country. So here's what I want to do. I want to pull up this map here. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to run through this map, and while I run through it, I'm just going to give you the recap of what I've just talked about here. Appreciate all the kindness in the chat and everybody chatting with each other. Great to have a good environment down there. Again, this system exiting the Pacific Northwest and it gets here. Okay, this is Friday night. Friday night we get enough of a trough to bring some isolated severe weather. Parts of eastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, western Missouri, into parts of northwest Arkansas. As we go into our Saturday, midday and afternoon, notice how this begins to turn from being like this, the trough ends up tilted a little bit more like so. And once you begin to see that trough kind of, what you're looking for in the strongest potential severe weather trough, okay? this is, a positively tilted trough. Negatively tilted trough, kind of more like this. And once you begin to see it curl back on itself like this, that's when you're really looking at a dynamic system. We don't see that yet, so this isn't looking to be an extreme severe weather event. But nonetheless, we see that trough. This area could light up with some, or let's redraw that. This area could light up with some severe weather here. Yeah, let's hope the snow estimates are off. Yeah. But yeah, this region here, some severe weather, yes. And then we begin to see this head on off towards the east. As it does so, again, one point I want to make, it's strengthening as it moves east. We begin to, once again, what you're noticing now at this point, now that the system looks like it's like this instead of like this, you're really beginning to see that trough curl like that way. But what's going to bring the severe trouble, or the trouble for getting severe weather further north, which I'm sure many people would be complaining, except for my bud Severe Storm Filmer. I get a lot of comments from him, and he was in here at the start. He said hi. Probably likes film. Probably would want to see a good storm like that. Shout out to him if you want to go subscribe to him, Severe Storm Filmer. But anyway, you can see we've got the wind flow like this. Thank you, Mr. Storm. You see it move like this, and I think severe weather could get this far north, but I don't think there's going to be the best ingredients that far north. This is where the problem arises. The trough is best for severe weather as it moves eastward, but there's not actual surface ingredients necessarily available. So this is what I'm trying to say. This area might have that broad severe weather, but it's not the best trough for severe weather. But there will be enough instability, and that's why that gets that 15% slight risk. Eastward, it's a little bit more uncertain, but if we can just get any, overlapping of this trough being as strong as it is, and the air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico to be unstable enough further north, I guarantee you we could see the potential for dangerous weather much further north. But anyway, that's pretty much what I'm trying to tell you. And then we get moisture to wrap back around towards the end of this into parts of New York, into parts of Pennsylvania as well. Yeah, sub to Mr. Storm as well, please, while you're on here. We get that to wrap around like that. We can see some snowfall into parts of western New York as well as parts of western PA. But again, the worst rain and wind would be right here along the coast. Hurricane force gusts possible through parts of Cape Cod and into Maine. I hope I explained everything really well for you here. I said for you to be preparing questions. If you have any questions, just let me know. I don't think I've gotten any yet. But if you have any questions, let me know. But this is going to be pretty much the conclusion of the stream if you don't have the questions. Thank you, everyone, for being on here and watching. What questions does anybody have here while you're on the stream? Any questions? I'll give everyone about a minute to ask questions. Again, marginal severe, slight severe, questionable severe. 500 millibar height. 500 millibar height is about 20,000 feet in the atmosphere, which is, it's considered mid-level. So mid-level height. And essentially what this is just the anomaly of the temperatures and the cold air in that region. And whenever you get these blue colors, that's, a storm system bringing cooler air in that level. Warmer air is indicated by this, which is ridging. So what we're looking for is troughs and ridging with mid-level height. Just logged in but don't have any guesses as far as possible snow totals for western PA. For western PA, okay, I showed the Euro just a minute ago, and we're looking at the potential. We're looking at the potential for, maybe 30 to 40 mile, or excuse me, we'll look at some wind gusts 30 to 40 mile per hour in that zone, but we'll look at the potential for maybe, say, a half foot to a foot of snowfall. If you look at the Euro, if you look at the GFS, maybe just a dusting to a couple of inches. So we'll watch for that. And it doesn't, Long Island, maybe some hurricane force gusts if you go with the Euro. Right now, I would say maybe 40 to 60 miles per hour for you, Mr. Storm. Will New Jersey have a bad winter? Right along that immediate East Coast, I wouldn't be shocked if we... Ooh, I accidentally deleted a message. Thanks for saying congrats on 1K. Thanks for joining. But yeah, right along that eastern coast in Long Island. Wouldn't be shocked if we got some 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts in New Jersey. How bad is your winter? Oh, yeah, that's the question I was on. How bad is your winter? I would expect a little bit above average precip, warmer than average conditions, but if we get a storm to ride the subtropical jet and head up the coast like that, we could see some dangerous conditions develop right there. So we got to monitor all this very closely. But that's all I got for this. Thank you, everyone, for being on here. Everybody have an excellent day. Thank you so much. And this is the end of this stream.